Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Today, I want to talk about leadership and the ability of generals to inspire. One of the generals who had that capability is the man pictured here, John Alexander Logan. He was known as Blackjack, that's his nickname, because of his dark eyes and his swarthy complexion. He had something in his character that was a fantastic leadership ability to inspire men, to inspire the common soldiers, to show them that they were secure, to project confidence. These are incredibly critical characteristics, no matter what war or wherever you are in life. Leadership and the ability to project becomes a really important trait. And John Blackjack Logan had that in spades. I want to give you an example of just how he inspired. And this story doesn't come from his fellow generals, it comes from an artillery lieutenant who was not far away from him during the Battle of Atlanta on July 22nd, 1864. Those of you who are students of the Civil War and students of the Atlanta campaign know on that day that the Union Army lost its top general, James Birdseye McPherson, after he was shot in the back, getting too close to the Confederates. That sometimes the loss of a major general can spell doom because it can demoralize the men and create havoc, lose confidence, and losing confidence in the middle of a battle, as Logan and the rest of the Union Army happened to be on this July day, this hot, oppressive day, sun burning hot, was could have been disaster. But McPherson was there and it was up to him. McPherson was there and it was good until he was not there any longer. And then Logan steps in to fill this enormous void. And so I want to get to this recounting by Second Lieutenant Richard Stanley Tuthill, who was a member, an officer in the 1st Michigan Light Artillery. He talked about his experience about 20 years after the war in 1886 when the Union veterans and the Confederate veterans were remembering their war experiences, publishing them in various books, talking, presenting to their comrades. And so Tuthill shared his remembrances in an address. And I'm going to read to you this passage because I think it's important to understand from the lower ranking officers and the common soldiers, the enlisted men, the non commissioned officers, what it meant to them to have an inspiring leader, especially in a moment of crisis. So here's Tuthill's commentary. He says, quote, "The musket firing in our rear had grown into a continuous volley and become startling by its nearness. About this time, General McPherson, accompanied by one member of his staff, Inspector General William E. Strong, and an orderly, passing to our immediate rear and into the woods, came unexpectedly upon the enemy and was instantly killed. I shall not attempt here to tell the story of McPherson's death or to speak of the loss of our army suffered thereby. General Sherman and others have in published papers given the world the fullest and most accurate accounts of this tragic event, and I could add nothing to what already has been said. McPherson's death was soon known to the army, but fortunately, the announcement was accompanied by the information that the command had devolved upon General Logan, who often had demonstrated his ability to handle large bodies of troops on the battlefield and to lead them to victory, so that nothing like a panic or even alarm ensued. General Logan, like General Philip Sheridan, was always an inspiration to his troops. It has been well said that the sight of him upon the battlefield was as good as a full brigade of fresh troops, for he was one of those rare men who are natural leaders, under whom soldiers love to fight, having confidence in their valor and the ability to accomplish the thing undertaken. And magnificently on this day did Logan vindicate this judgment of the veterans of the Army of the Tennessee. I can see him now, as on that day, after one of the desperate charges of the Confederates had been bloodily repulsed, he rode the entire length of the line held by the 15th and 17th Corps. He was mounted upon his spirited and richly caparisoned war horse, which, with nostrils distended and pawing the ground, seemed, like his rider, to be mocking at fear and sniffing the battle. I have often said that would an artist paint a picture which should present most vividly to the mind the spirit of victorious war, he could not do better than to make a lifelike representation of that swarthy, flashing eyed, fierce looking, but self contained heroic leader as he dashed along our line that day, acknowledging with a slight bending of his head and with hat in hand the loud huzzas of his victorious soldiers. Wow. There's John Alexander Logan, Blackjack Logan, in that moment when the fate of his army and perhaps the fate of the Union, certainly the Atlantic campaign, was in his hands. McPherson was dead, and Logan realized the situation he was in. He rose to the occasion, he met the moment, and inspired men like Lieutenant Tuthill of the 1st Michigan Light Artillery and others who were there that day. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.